Good morning children, welcome to class 4 EVS. Children, we were doing chapter 9 air we breathe. Children, in this chapter we have done the importance of air and we had done also some of the activities. Today we will revise the topic which we had done yesterday and then we'll do the next topic. So children, let us start chapter 9 air we breathe. Children, as we know, air is everywhere. Children, as I asked you yesterday, what is it we cannot live without? So children, we can live without food and water for few days, but air is something without which we cannot live even few minutes. So children, air is something which is very important to us and we cannot live without them. Children, the air is something which we need to breathe. Children, the air we breathe is the most important thing that every human beings need to live. Children, breathing is very important for all living beings, whether it is plants, animal or human beings. So, breathing is essential for human beings, plants and animals. We cannot live without breathing. So, children, in this chapter, we are going to read about air we breathe. So, we will be reading all about air. Children, what is air? Air is something without which we cannot live. Children, air is one which has no color or no odor. That is why we are not able to see air. Children, but we can feel it. Children, can you feel air? Yes, we can feel. Children, when there is movement in air, if air is still, you cannot feel it. But when there is movement, you can feel it. Children, anything around you which is empty is filled with air. So, children, air is something without which we cannot live. The air we breathe is the most important thing that every human beings need. Breathing is very essential for human beings, plants and animals. That means it is important for all the living things. We cannot live without breathing. Children, animals and plants cannot live without breathing. Children, air is colorless and odorless. That is why we cannot see the air, but we can feel it. Children, in the room in which we live, in our bedroom also, there is air, but we cannot see it. We cannot see it because, as I told you, air has no color or no smell. So, children, if something doesn't have color or smell, would you be able to see or smell it? No. Children, as it has no color or odor, we are not able to see it, but we can feel it. So, air is all around us. Children, everywhere there is air. There is everywhere. That is why we can say all the empty space. Empty space means something which seems to be empty, means anything which is kept without something is empty. So, if something is empty, Why it is empty? Because we are not able to see anything inside it. That means it is empty. That means it is filled with air. So all the space around us which is empty is occupied by the air. So we can say air is everywhere. But we can only feel it. And children, we can feel it only when it has movement. When it moves, we can see our clothes flying, we can see our hair flying, or we can see the things around us is flying. It is only because of the air. So children, in this chapter, we are going to read the air which we breathe. So air we breathe. All living things need air. As I have told you, everybody, whether it is human being, animal or plant, everybody needs air. As we all breathe. We breathe through our nose, and then this air goes to the lungs. Children, animals also breathe, as we have studied in our previous chapters that animals also breathe. In the same manner, similarly, plants also breathe. No living being can survive without air for few minutes. Children, as we know, air, all living things need air. Living things, all the living things means plants, animals and human beings. So everybody needs air. No living being, children, no living being can survive. Survive means can live. Survive means, children, can live. If there is no air, nobody will survive. Means nobody will be able to live. So no living being, whether it is plant, animal or human being, will be able to survive if there is no air. So children, we can live without food, water for some days, but without air we cannot survive, or we cannot live even for few minutes. Children, just hold your nose with your hands, with your fingers. How many minutes can you hold your nose without breathing air? Few seconds. After that you automatically open your mouth, as you need to breathe in air. So when you close your nose, automatically your mouth opens so that the air enters inside and you are able to breathe. So children, only for few seconds you can only hold your nose tightly. Otherwise, and if you do forcefully, it may you may feel suffocated, as you won't be able to breathe in air. So you can't do this for longer time, and you automatically open your mouth so that some air enters your mouth. So children, it is not possible for us to live without air. Air is present everywhere. As I told you, wherever there is space around you, wherever there is space around us, there is air, but we cannot see it. In case it moves, you can see things around you flying, and you can feel that the air is present. Now children, when we feel its presence in so many ways, we can feel the presence of air in so many ways. By firstly, children, if you look around, you will see the leaves rattling, or you can see the swinging leaves. This shows that there is air. Or the clothes hanging on the wire are swinging or flying. By that way also you can find that, or you can say that there is air. So the clothes sway, or the pages of an notebook, open notebook, begin fluttering. So you can say, children, the air is present or there is air. So children, the movement in the air, moving air is called wind. So this is wind which you can feel. Children, this is the wind which helps us fly kites. Children, this is the wind which helps us sail the boat. Children, this is the wind which help us fly the air balloons. So children, sometimes when this wind becomes very fast, it is dangerous too. It may uproot the trees. Children, this is the wind which may uproot the trees. So children, air is very important. We all need air. We all means all the living things need air. Children, as air is invisible or we cannot see air. Why we cannot see air? Because air is colorless and odorless, but it is present everywhere, all around us. Even now, I am sitting in a room. This room is, all the empty space of this room is filled with the air. Children, without air, we can't even speak, or without air, we cannot even hear the noise. Children, if there is no air, you won't be able to get the fragrance of flowers. You won't be able to find out what your mother is preparing in the kitchen. So children, air is very important. In this chapter, we are reading the importance of air. Children, all living things need air. No living being can survive without air. Children, survive means can live. No living being can live without air for more than a few minutes. Children, you can live without food and water for few days, but you cannot live or survive without air even for few minutes. So children, with this you can understand how important air is. Air is present everywhere around us. As we know, air is something which takes the space which are empty. We cannot see it, but if something is empty, we can realize it is occupied by the space in that is occupied by the air. So children, we cannot see air as it is colorless and odorless, as it has no smell or as it has no color. That is why we are not able to see it, but it is present everywhere. We feel its presence in many ways. When we see the swinging leaves or rattling, when the leaves rattle, or when the clothes hanging on the cloth line sway, or the pages of your notebook fly, or when the clothes which we are wearing fly, or when the kite in the sky fly, we realize there is air. Children, moving air is called wind. Moving air is very important for flying the kite. Children, if there is no movement in the air, you can't fly the kite. If there is no movement in the air, you can't sail the boat. Children, if there is no movement in the air, your clothes won't dry. Children, this is how the air is very important for all of us. Children, air is something which we breathe. Air is most important thing that every human being needs to live. All the animals as well as plants breathe. That is why it is also important for plants and animals. Without air, plants and animals cannot live. So, children, now we have understood how important air is. In this paragraph, we have studied about the importance of air. Our first topic is the importance of air. So, in this paragraph, we have read about the importance of air. So, let us revise once again, children. All living things need air. What do you mean by living things, children? Living things means human being, plants and animals. No living beings can survive without air for more than few minutes. What do you mean by survive, children? Survive means to live. None of the living beings can live without air for more than a few minutes. Children, we can live without food and water for few days, but without air we cannot survive even for few minutes. Air is present everywhere. Children, all the space around all the empty space around us is occupied by the air. Even when we are sitting in our room, all the empty space of our room is occupied by the air. Children, air is colorless and odorless. That is why we are not able to see it, but we can feel its presence. If it is present somewhere, we can feel it. So, children, the air which is odorless and colorless, it can't be seen, but it can be felt. We notice it when the leaves of a tree rattles or swings. A cloth hanging on the cloth's line sway, or the pages of your open notebook flutters. Children, moving air is called wind. The same air, when it moves, it is called wind. Wind is also very important. As we know, we can't fly a kite if there is no air. Children, we can't sail a boat if there is no air. Children, if there is, we can't the wind helps in the movement of windmill. Windmill helps in generating electricity. So, children, wind is also very important for all of us. But, children, sometimes this wind also uproots the trees. If it is very fast, it may uproot the trees. So, children, let us see some uses of the wind through pictures. So, children, our next topic is uses of air in our life. Children, here we can see a picture of parachute. This parachute flies hot air balloon. This hot air balloon flies only because of the air. So, children, here is a picture of hot air balloon. This hot air balloon flies only because of the air. Children, this is one of the use of air. This hot air balloon So, children, here in the picture, this hot air balloon flies only because of the presence of air. So children, it is one of the use of the air. Next one, children, we use this air to fill the tire tube of vehicles. For example, here we are filling the tire tube of a car. Children, we need to fill tire tube of cycle, bus, all with the air. That means the air is filled into the tire tube of the vehicle. Without filling the air, this vehicle won't be able to run on the road. So this air is filled into the tire tubes of bicycle, motorcycle, bike, scooter, car, all the vehicles which have wheels. So all these wheels are filled with tire tube. Children, you must have seen football also filled with the air. Now children, air is needed for burning. Here this food is cooked only because of the air. If there were no air, we could not burn fire. So children, here this lady is cooking food on the fire and she is applying air to the fire. That is why it is able to burn. So this is another use of air. Now children, as I told you, air is very important for plants and animals. So here plants also need air. As I have told you, plants also breathe. Plants also breathe. So children, plants also need air. As I have told you, there are small pores on the leaves. These pores are called stomata. By now children, you have understood very well what are stomata. Stomatas are the small openings present on the lower surface of the leaves. These help the leaf in the exchange of gases. These gases are oxygen and carbon dioxide. Through the process of exchange of gases, these leaves breathe. So here children, leaves take in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. So this is the process how plants breathe. Once again we'll repeat children. Here is a leaf. These leaves have small pores. These leaves have small pores. These small pores are called stomata. S-T-O-M-A-T-A children. Stomata. So these stomata allow the exchange of air in leaf. Which gases are exchanged? That is oxygen. Here we have oxygen. This comes out, and here we have carbon dioxide. These goes inside through these pores. These are the small openings or pores which allow the air to enter the leaf and also to come out of the leaf. The air which enters the leaf, that is carbon dioxide, and the air which comes out of the leaf is called oxygen. So children, in the process of the exchange of gases, the carbon dioxide which is released by human being when we breathe out, children, when we breathe out, the air which we breathe out is rich in carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is taken by the leaves and it releases oxygen. Releases means gives out oxygen. This oxygen is breathed in by us. So children, we depend upon plant for oxygen and plants depends on us for carbon dioxide, and same oxygen is breathed by the animal. So in this way children, plants also needs air to breathe. Here this is another use of air. Children, here is another picture of a aeroplane. Do you know aeroplanes also are able to fly only because of the air? If there were no air, this aeroplane could not be able to fly. So children, aeroplanes fly only because of the air. So children, aeroplanes fly only because of the air. So this is another use of air. Aeroplane is able to fly only because of the air. So children, this is another use of an air. Now children, here is a plant. In this plant there is a flower like structure which is called, this is the dandelion. This is dandelion. It is a type of flower which disperse through air. Disperse means children, as we know, plants, if plant is not able to move, okay children, as we know plants are not able to move. So if it sheds all its seed at a same place, what will happen? जितनी देर में डिस्टेंस में पेड़ है उतने ही डिस्टेंस में उसके सारे सीड नीचे गिरेंगे और वहीं पे सारा प्लांट आ जाएगा, उग जाएगा. So children, what will happen? The plant which grow below that plant, original plant or the actual plant or main plant, will not allow the other plants to survive. Children, as there will be limited space, so they won't be able to get enough water and nutrients from the soil and also air from the surrounding and sunlight also. That is why there are certain agents which help these plants to disperse. So air is one of the agent which help the plant to disperse. Disperse means it helps the plant seeds to take away from the main plants. In this way, these plants are able to grow somewhere else. This seed will go and drop somewhere else and they will germinate there. In this way, when they will germinate far away from these plants, they will get enough space, air, water and sunlight to grow. Children, these are dandelions, leaf are light weighted and they have wind kind of thing, wing kind of structure. Because of this wing, they are light and with the wing they are able to fly. That is why the air easily disperse these leaves. So children, dispersal you will be learning in your next class, but here as I am giving you the example of dispersal, air is the one which helps in dispersal of the seed and it helps in those seeds which have wing kind of structure. So, for example, dandelions or the cotton. Cotton has a small seed and it is surrounded by a cotton light weighted wing, that is the cotton itself, and as that cotton is very light, it is easily flown into the air and dispersed by air. So air also helps the seed to disperse, to move from one place to another. As the plant cannot move it by itself, it is not able to disperse its seed. So this is the air which help these seeds to get dispersed from one place to another, means helps in the movement of seed from one place to another. This is another use of the air. So air also helps pollens, you can say the pollens also, to move from one place to another, so that these plants are easily germinated somewhere, get germinated somewhere else with the help of the seed which is blown by the wind. So children, here air also helps in dispersal of the seed. These air helps in the light weighted seeds which can easily be flown into the air. The best examples of the seeds which are dispersed by the air is dandelions as well as cotton. These have wing kind of structure as well as they are lightweighted, so they easily get dispersed or get flown by the air and drop somewhere else and germinates there. So children, the air also helps in the dispersal. Now balloons. These are the balloons. Children, air also helps in blowing the balloons. As we know, when you blow in air into the balloon, it takes a shape and it swells. It swells because we blow in air, the empty space inside the balloon is occupied by the air and it makes it swell. So these balloons are also blown with the help of air. This is another use of the air. So children, we also studied about wind. Moving air is called wind. When there is movement in the air, it is called wind. Now we will read about some of the uses of wind. Children, here we can see a kite. As we know, if there is no air, means if there is no movement in the air, we won't be able to fly the kite. Kite will only fly when there is movement in air. This movement in air is called wind. So this is one of the use of wind. A kite will only fly when there is movement in the wind. So it is movement in the air. It is one of the use of wind. Now children, this is kite. Kite will only fly when there is movement in the air. Movement is nothing but when the wind, movement is nothing but the movement in air is called wind. When the air moves, it is called wind, and a kite will fly only when there is wind. So it is one of the use of wind. Now children, another use of wind is windmill. As we know, windmill moves only when there is movement in air, and this movement of air is called wind. So windmill will only, this is windmill. It will only move when there is wind, when there is movement in air, and this windmill helps in generating electricity. Children, this windmill is one of the example of wind. This windmill will only move when there is wind or when there is movement in air. If the air is not blowing, or if the air is not moving, or if there is no wind, this windmill will not move. Now parachute. Children, parachute is another example. It will move or will be able to fly through parachute only when there is wind. So parachute is another example or the example of the uses of wind. So parachute will only be able to fly when there is movement in air or when there is wind. So children, parachute is another example of moving air or wind. Children, you can sail a boat only when there is wind. The boat will also not sail, or it will be very difficult to sail a boat if there is no wind. Means if there is no movement in air, you won't be able to sail the boat, or you won't be able to sail it easily. So sailing a boat also needs air, or it also needs moving air. So it is another example of the wind. So children, we can sail a boat only when there is wind. Children, as we know, a clothes dries easily. It dries with in sunlight also, but it dries easily when there is moving air or where there is wind. So this is another example of wind. In wind we can dry our clothes very easily. So it is another example of wind. So children, in this session we have studied about the importance of air, uses of air in our life, and also uses of wind. Children, in our next session we will be doing some activities to prove that all the empty spaces are occupied by the air. So children, in our next class we will be doing the activity and prove that empty space is occupied by the air. Thank you children.